Welcome in. What is going on, guys? I hit the live stream button a little too early, so I am already here. Hit the live button a little too early, but we're here already. So let's go ahead and get it started then. I'm going to let a few people pile in here again since I did hit the button a little earlier than I expected to. Luckily, I got most everything set up for it. And we got a little bit to talk about here. Just a man. Like I said, I'm gonna let some people pile in here first. Let me know your thoughts on the game. Let me make sure y'all can hear me okay. If you can hear me, please do say so. I'm gonna plug in my camera real quick. Pretend like this is my first rodeo. So again, sorry guys, hit the live button a little early than I was supposed to, earlier than expected. But how are we feeling about the game? Gut wrenching loss, depending on how you want to look at it, whether it be because we were close. No cigar. The officiating was very up and down, to put it lightly. But we're going to dive into a little bit of everything again. As you come in here, drop your thoughts. Let me know what you thought on the game. I'm going to pull up some of the numbers here, the box score numbers, and see what we can get a feel for. But man, the missed opportunities. I think that's going to be the biggest painstaking part of this. Thinking back is just the missed opportunities, the missed touchdown, the chance that we had there in the goal line. Well, basically within the 5-yard line, 6-yard line, starting the drive there, unable to get any points out of that, unable to score a touchdown. And just what was, again, it just seems like to me the play calling when it is going from the 50 to the 50, it's okay. And then as we inch towards that red zone, inch towards the goal line, it's like the play calling just tightens up to the point where it's just way too predictable. Or my take on it is almost this, that I feel to an extent that they're afraid to make a mistake in the red zone in terms of play calling. I like, otherwise, I don't understand why it's conservative, run the 6-yard line and we just run. And I understand that we want to run, but let's get a little bit something going, maybe some kind of outside run, something like that besides, running with a smaller player to the outside. I just want to get big, physical, and just start to kind of do some outside zones or do some whams, some traps, do something to kind of mix the blocking up and take advantage of some of those situations. Maybe pull some guys, get some combo blocks going up to the second level and try to just push our way through there. But instead, it seems like we're just trying to jump over our offensive line every single short yardage situation too. And not a huge fan of the jumping, especially in that situation where once you leave the ground, if you don't get where you need to go, forward progress is stopped. You can't push anymore. You lose all of your leverage and your ability to push. So you have one shot at making it over the line. If somebody meets you there, it's done. That's one of the reasons I don't like the constant jumping. It might be something that Dowdell has been told to do, but it's just every single time we're trying to jump over the line, every single time. So let me pull up some of the stats here real quick, and we'll dive into some of the numbers. And like I said, as y'all are piling in here, let me know your thoughts. I'm going to be popping up some of the comments here as well and getting into y'all's thoughts. Wade says, why didn't the Ohio State coach get 15 yards for throwing the headset when Rule got one a couple weeks ago? It absolutely should have been called and was not, which is a trend today. It was a disappointing trend today on. It's just the officiating was bad. The officiating was horrible. And if you would have come into this game and told us that, like, yeah, the officiating is probably going to be horrid, then on our side, then we would have never thought we had a chance to win. That was the biggest thing for me. I'm like, we're sitting here and we're talking about how we have missed opportunities and the officials are really not calling a straight down the middle game. And we still had a lead at one point. And just like I said, just kind of like the fight that this team showed, the defense especially, when I posted a couple of videos about the offense, this week, or talking about Satterfield, I even got comments is like, why are you focused on the offense? Like, why aren't you talking about the defense? The defense also gave up 57 points and all this other stuff. But I wasn't worried about the defense. Last week seemed like an outlier. Again, a lot of heads went down. A lot of people got disappointed. But we've seen that happen. The Illinois game where we really got kind of beat, got put out of position. Our defense got put in a tough situation in a lot of ways. and they responded, right? And so I've seen the defense respond. I just have yet to see the offense respond. And today, it was more of the defensive response that gave the offense a chance and gave the offense a leg up versus the offense. The offensive play calling is still an issue. Credit to the players. They battled their tail off, but just some of these play calling things by Satterfield. There was one screenplay that I'll get into it a little bit where he almost threw him into the tackle. That was when they're in the red zone, and we kind of stretched it out wide, and he threw him right into the tackle. I mean, right when the defender was reaching his arm out, he caught the ball, threw it right out to him. So opportunities were there, but happy they hung in the game. Exactly. Like, again, it hurts just because of how close we were, but this has to give a lot of confidence, because what this defense did well today, when I was watching the Iowa film, and I kind of broke this down when I was going into, what to expect from Ohio State's offense. And, Ohio State runs to the left a lot, right? But they pass to the right a lot. So they do things to move the defense, right? They run a lot of trips. They run a lot of bunch, and they'll motion across. They use a ton of motions. And what they're trying to do is just manipulate the box, but they're trying to get people moving away from the play. They're motioning out and they'll snap, maybe he'll run a wheel route, but they're trying to motion people away from the play to get an inside zone. Sorry about that. I don't know why my camera, I also don't know who these guys are on this. This sort of random picture pops up every single time my camera dies. So I don't even know how to change it. I don't even have one of me on here. So I don't know who that guy is on that picture, by the way, just a heads up. He doesn't look like me. So, but yeah, so anyways, what they did a good job of, the defense today, was eye discipline. And that was what killed them against Illinois. And that's what killed them against Indiana's eye discipline. And what Iowa did was Iowa had mixed things up with their fronts and their coverages in the first half. And they had a lot of success doing that defensively against Ohio State. And so for Nebraska, it was literally going to have to be, everything was going to have to be disguised, whether we're rotating a coverage to man, whether we're rotating coverage to zone, whether we're dropping players back in coverage, where we're sending players up. They're playing and keying off of what our linebackers do. And then our linebackers are keying off of what their blockers and everything else is doing. And it's a matter of who's gonna make the right decision. And Nebraska was in the right place most of the time today on defense. A couple of times they got beat. Jeremiah Smith got deep on that one, and then there was that one touchdown. I think the first touchdown. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but if y'all remember the play against Indiana where they had kind of that up and in route, deep route, where it was the sack. It got saved by the sack, but that route was wide open early on in that game for a touchdown. That was the same exact route, if I'm not mistaken, that Ohio State ran in that same play, up the hash, right, up the seam. And it's susceptible. The pass game's susceptible up those seams. And so, those little things have to be fine-tuned. But, you get a couple of explosive plays that lead to a touchdown. One of them was kept alive on that drive where, you had the pass interference on 3rd and long. That first touchdown doesn't happen if they don't call that bogus pass interference on that first Ohio State touchdown drive to keep the drive going and to give them an opportunity to score. So, but yeah, let me continue to dive into your comments real quick. Let's see. And if y'all don't mind, if you're just stopping in here, drop a like on the stream. Let me know what y'all thought on the game. I'm gonna be diving into the comments and giving you my breakdowns as well. So 42 people in here. So if y'all don't mind dropping a like, thank y'all so much, man. I really appreciate everybody hopping in here with me. Joel, what's going on, man? Proud of the Huskers. Go Big Red. It's hard not to be, man. Hard not to be. Again, I'm really not in that much pain after this loss, surprisingly, just because that was really good to see. I really wanted to see these players come out and there's no reason to hang their heads, because they were taking a lot of beating this week, and that just shows, under the Scott Frost era, they talked a lot about how the outside noise kind of snuck in, right? And it just seems like there's a little bit less of that. I think during the Frost era, we heard a lot about they were just listening to the noise, and that was causing them to really just kind of tighten up. It was causing them to really overthink, or they didn't want to be the ones to make the mistakes. But it seems like Rule has done a much better job under his tenure of keeping that outside noise out and really just kind of making sure the guys within that building focus on each other, don't focus what us on analysts are saying or as fans are saying. focus on each other and the guy next to you. And that's what they did today. And like I said, I'm super proud of that team, man. Super proud of the team. Even the offense. I'm super proud of the offense too, man. They went out there and battled, to the final whistle. It's just some of the play calling stuff still needs to be addressed. Can we please not put Heinrich Haarberg on the field anymore to just get negative yards? I think the biggest thing with Haarberg is, I did a video about how I think he should be utilized. And the reason why I did that video is because I wanted him to be used in somewhat of an H-back role. So we use the H-back a ton, Fedoni, Carter, and Nelson sometimes, right? But if what a H-back is, it's like a tight end fullback hybrid, just an athletic, type of guy who can block, who can run routes, that type of deal. So when you have a guy like Haarberg out there, if you constantly run him in for one or two plays on a drive, odds are he's, so far he's going to probably be involved in that play a high percentage of the time. So if he comes into the game, most defenses are probably going to be like, okay, let's keep an eye on him because whatever they're doing is probably going to work off of him, at least from what the film has shown thus far. So it's not working. There needs to be some kind of a setup to it. So using him in somewhat of that H-back role and being able to motion him across, use him as a blocker sometimes, and then motion him across, run him out for a pass, like use him in a bunch of different ways. He doesn't have to be out there all the time. Like I said, just do this for a series or something like that. That way it's not like, okay, we're driving all the way down the field. We're getting inside the 25-yard line. And now all of a sudden we're pulling Heinrich Haarberg out to kind of, run a play, run the ball or whatever. And like I said, they're just keying in on it and it's not working. And so I just think they need to get more creative with how they use Heinrich if they insist on getting him out there. I think he should be utilized on the field just because of his talent, skill, and his ability, but I just don't think we're going about it in the right ways. I still think kind of rotating him at that H-back role would be really, really good. Unfortunately, Dylan had a couple of missed passes for TDs. We had chances to win that game. Yes, we did have opportunities to win that game, and I'm not sure what it is about Raiola's touch right now on the deep ball. It's given me a little bit of a, shades of kind of last year was just a little bit overthrown, but I don't know if it's a timing thing. I don't know if it's one of those things where it's just the offense, he's feeling the pressure of the offense and maybe he's just staying a little tight and not sticking to his fundamentals, just letting that ball rip. He could be just gripping it a little extra. It's one of those things where he's a true freshman in a situation like this. And, it's hard to say where that's coming from. I mean, mechanically, Raiola tends to be a little awkward. So, mechanically, you don't see too many hitches in his game. And what he does is a little bit unorthodox as is. But yes, we did miss opportunities for sure to win that game. So all these screen passes remind me of the Scott Frost offense, all backwards. I think more the timing of the screen passes is the big one for me. Again, we get down into the red zone on that side of the field and we run like 3 consecutive screen passes or 3 consecutive lateral plays. Again, none of them were, and I get maybe going to it sometimes, right? To really just kind of move that, spread that defense out a little bit. But when you go to it play after play after play, and you're not blocking it, I don't understand. You're not going to trick them by running the same play over and over. Are you expecting this time the blocking to set up? Are you expecting this time to go different? Like there's opportunities where when we need to be moving the ball forward, when we have a shorter field, we're still throwing it laterally. And if you're going to sit here and talk to us on press conference and say perimeter blocking is poor, we'll stop throwing to the perimeter in the situations where we need to get yards the most. They're going to use one big man from defense on offense. Why not use Robinson and Nash to push the ball over the end zone instead, like you said, trying to jump over? That was my thing. I was just wondering how that formation was when they came out with that formation. I was wondering if they were going to use him as a push or just I wasn't sure how that was going to work. But yeah, that was my confusion on it. I was expecting there to just be some big push at the line to really just move them backwards and just kind of get in there and knife your way through. And that would have been ideal, right? Just get in there and be able to get low and find a crease in there. I mean, you got to go 1 inch. And if you're jumping the ball, you have a hard time extending it, right? But when you're down in that pile, right, you're just sitting there and you're literally just going low as you can and just trying to drive through there, knife through there. and it makes it a lot easier. Whether you're going over the top, it's real dangerous. And then, like I said, you lose all of your push as soon as you leave the ground. Your push is gone, and then you're at the mercy of hoping your line gets the push forward, and they don't meet you at the top. So, proud Husker here. A couple passes, and we'd be dancing. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I said, that TD down the right hand side just kind of sailed it on him. And again, I really want to look at the film back and just see kind of if those were anything happened on those routes that we didn't see. I don't think so. I just think there were misses. But I'm curious to see what Raiola talks about, if they talk to him about those throws, and see just maybe if he's thinking a little bit too much. But regardless, the QB run game today was super, super important, especially in that first half, and then kind of didn't do it as much. But, Raiola is such a gamer out there. Took a hit. His shoulder was banged up. Like I tweeted, you're going to have to amputate that guy's arm and keep him out of the game. It's good to see the guys bounce back in a big way. Dylan will learn and grow from this season. Oh, without a doubt, without question. Raiola's never been – Raiola has never at one time been my concern in this offense at all. It's actually quite the opposite. He's one of the least of my concerns. I think one guy that isn't getting enough credit, who's been playing his tail off, was actually the highest graded player according to PFF against Indiana, is Fidone. Fidone has been playing his absolute tail off over this season, and just really, I love watching Fidone, the way he plays the game, the way he fights, the way he battles, and yeah, man, it's like just seeing some of the fight from this team this week. It's hard not to be happy, no matter what. We can build on this effort today and be better next week against UCLA. We got UCLA coming up, USC, Wisconsin, and I know a lot of people were looking at those games on the back half of the schedule. I kept my prediction at 8 wins. I said it this week. I said I'm not moving off of my 8-win projection. I still think everything that Nebraska wants is right in front of them. Wisconsin looks a little tougher than they did to start the season, but they still don't look as tough as we thought in this offseason. Iowa, they've been up and down, very up and down. They got blown out by this Ohio State team. UCLA, UCLA's they're scrappy, but they're not very good. USC, they've been up and down this season, right? So everything Nebraska wants is still in front of them, with an opportunity to finish this season strong. And so if we're worried about one way or the other, the biggest thing is how we finish this season, right? If the difference between this last year and this year, if this team makes the jump, last year got to 5 wins, had adversity, couldn't overcome it. This year got to 5 wins, we're hitting adversity. Now will we overcome it? I think that's the year 2 jump we're looking for. Do they overcome the adversity this year as opposed to previous years? Lived in Nebraska. My whole life has never been a Husker fan until last year. Never screamed so much at my TV for the Huskers to go Big Red. Yeah, I would yell at my TV, but my wife's out of town, and one of my dogs over here has got a real bad anxiety. So that's the only thing that stopped me from yelling is because I feel bad for my dog if I yell and she looks scared. So I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for my dog. Sorry. If they put Heinrich Haarberg on field, he should be right next to Raiola. So they don't know if he's going to run or pass Raiola. Yeah, put him in H-back. Put him in H-back. Just kind of right there off the line of scrimmage, and use that motion. Haarberg Wildcat. I still think that's predictable, but I'd rather a Haarberg Wildcat than screen passes. That's for sure. Haarberg wingback, potentially, yeah. There's other opportunities for him. Just the Wildcat and just running back is a little too predictable at times. Marcus Satterfield needs to be removed from play calling. The lack of adjustments when screens are not working is unbelievable. A way to adjust there is to have the wide receiver run and go routes. Yeah, I really want to see on this film kind of just how many. I want to go look at how many screen passes we ran or how many lateral plays we ran, and just what we netted, what our best play was, what our worst play was, and just see the disparity there, and just see if there's anything that they're seeing in this. But from what I've seen from watching the film week in and week out, there is just not enough of lateral quickness and ability to engage in your block at the right time. And I think that's the biggest issue, is we're turning around to engage in our blocks and they're already triggering downhill, right? So we're a half beat late on timing. On whatever is happening, we're a half beat late on timing. I don't know if that's getting our receivers in a better position to lay these blocks or what, but something in this process is flawed because they're just not. The defense is triggering downhill before offense can lead the blocks. We should be ahead of them in terms of setting up this play. I don't know if there's a tell. I don't know what it is, but something, is causing this perimeter block. I mean, Nair and Banks has had good and bad, moments blocking. Nair had a couple good blocks today, but again, it's not consistent enough to expect any of the screen stuff to work ever. With experience, the Huskers only get better. Exactly, Joel. By the way, if you're just hopping in here, please drop a like, leave your comments, let me know. I'm running through all the comments, and we are talking through the game a little bit. So, Star Trek Asylum throwing it late in the game to the running backs really was some bad play calling. Yeah. And I don't mind throwing to the running backs, but at that point in the game, we got to move north-south. Again, the plays that the drives that we've had success in that game and the Rutgers game, all of those had a balance of run and pass, no lateral plays. It's simple. It's simple as that. All those had a balance of run, pass, no lateral game. And don't let me forget to talk about John Hull in just a second. But yes, setting up plays by throwing to the running back is good. Throwing to the running back to try to set up plays is not good. And especially in a situation where the defense, that this is even the worst part of it. All the defense is trying to do is keep everything in front of them. That's their only job. They're late in the field, or late in the game. So what us throwing laterally is helping them. It's helping us. It's helping them keep stuff in front of them so they can just trigger downhill, make a play. Like I said, we need to get yards there. We need a touchdown. They just need to keep everything in front of them and try to just hold us. And that's exactly what they did. Force a mistake. If we get 6 wins, bowl eligible, will Nebraska relax and play like we all think they can? It seems like we're too worried about getting to that point. So here's my thing on it, because I don't really think a bowl eligibility is going to make the team relax. I don't necessarily think the team is really thinking about that. I just think that they are worried about, I do honestly think that they're just worried about going 1-0 the next week. And I don't think winning game 6 is their goal, right? I think their goal is to win every single week. So I think what's going to have Nebraska relax and play like we all think they can is for them to get this mental stuff out of the locker room and get the play calling improved. Right now, the play calling is a big issue, but the mental stuff that's been coming up, and Matt Rule has talked about this, venturing over from the previous staff. There are some things that still need to be worked out of that culture wise as well. So I don't think it's one of those things where bowl eligibility fix it. I think bowl eligibility gets a big monkey off of their back for sure. But I don't think this team is worried about being bowl eligible. I don't think any player on this team is worried about being bowl eligible. I think they know that they'll get it. Honestly, I think they do have that belief in themselves. If Raul makes a few passes, we win. He missed at least 2 touchdown passes. Yeah, he missed a couple of passes. Yeah, the combination of the two. And that's why, the officiating was horrible and put us in a bad spot. But we did miss opportunities. That 4th and goal from the 1 inch, just not getting that was a killer, man. Got to feel sick after that. Just 4 plays to get 6 yards and couldn't do it. That's rough. Sorry, I just rolled a chair on my dog's paw. I still think Nebraska was looking ahead last week against Indiana. I just think, man, honestly, think of how we felt during that game. We were sitting here puzzled, right? Asking ourselves, what is happening? I almost feel like in a way, the players were asking themselves that same thing. I feel like before they even realized it, the game had kind of got put away, or game had been put away rather. And it just seemed from then there was just like they were shell shocked and just couldn't recover. And that was when they were talking about hanging their hats and quitting and all this other stuff. And it's like, I just felt like last week was such a shock to the system that by the time they looked up, they were down 3-4 touchdowns, and that's why, again, I wasn't critical of the defense, and people were asking me on my video, why I wasn't calling out the defense, why I was this, because again, I've seen them respond. I thought they would respond in this game, and they did. Tony White with his with his adjustments has been excellent. You know, when he comes out, his defense gets beat one week, he comes back the next week and they come on and put on a stellar performance. They make adjustments. Like I said, he had you look at Jamari Butler. Jamari Butler was all over the field in this game. Jamari Butler was out there just fighting. You know, he spun off of a play and Quinshon Judkins ran right into him. Like, it's just, he was so massive in this game. You know, Hartzog with the interception. We had our defensive backs get beat. Isaac Gifford got beat on that one touchdown. But just overall, just with this defense doesn't think anybody on the field, they're not intimidated by anybody. I'm going to put it that way. When they get out there against somebody, they see it as a challenge, right? And Ohio State, they had an opportunity. And I said this week, I'm happy we're playing Ohio State this weekend, because I would not have felt good about losing to Indiana like we did, and then coming back out this week and playing like a UTEP, you know, and beating them and feeling nothing good about it, right? But this coming into Ohio State and have to immediately respond, that to me shows just kind of like where this team is at and where they can be in terms of just their ability to respond. And we talk about having a short mind. You got to give credit that 56-7 coming back this week and battling the number 4 team in the country on the road the way they did. That's a response like we haven't seen before too. So I'm glad we have Rayola. You and me both. All right. So let me just go ahead and dive into some of the stats. Let me pull these up here. Like I said earlier. Oh, here we go. Got it right here. All right. So going through, and I'll also pull up some of the other Big Ten scores too, and we can run through those as well just to see what everything's doing here. So I got the stats over here. So let me run through these. All right. So one of the things that I did want to point out right here is Nebraska leads in all these categories in this game. Third down efficiency, 5 for 16, 1 for 10 for Ohio State. 273 yards for Nebraska, 285 for Ohio State. 152 passing to 221. 121 rushing to 64, 7 penalties for 62 yards. So Nebraska wins time of possession. They tie the turnover margin, lose the penalties, have more rushing yards, more yards per rush. They have less yards per pass, less passing yards, about 8 less total yards, and lower in fourth down efficiency. Now, if you would have read me that box score before, you see all the elements of a win there. 35 minutes of possession to 24 minutes of possession. Okay. And so let me see. Let me move this over here so I'm not looking to the side for y'all. So 18 first downs to 11 first downs. Like 11 first downs, 5 for 10 on third down. That is exceptional after last week. Dylan Raiola, 21 for 32, 152 yards, no touchdowns, and that pick. Opportunity for 2 touchdowns naturally. Will Howard, 13 for 16. Pretty efficient when he was able to get the ball off, but pressure was in his face all game. 13 for 16, 221 yards, 3 touchdowns, and that 1 pick. Looking at the rushing, Dowdle had a pretty good game, 14 carries, 60 yards, and a touchdown. Raiola, 9 carries for 31 yards with a 38-yard long. And I saw our sack adjusted yards per rush somewhere in that game. And our sack adjusted yards per rush, I believe, brought us up to over pretty well over 4 yards per carry, if I'm not mistaken. So Emmett Johnson, 8 carries for 30 yards. Pretty good game for him all around. Jalen Lloyd, 1 carry, 4 yards. Fedoni, like I said, he was battling this game. 4 receptions, 55 yards. Corey Barney, 7 receptions for 49. Banks, 2 for 31. Nair, 2 for 15. And then going back to the defense, Deshaun Singleton, 6 solo tackles, was all over the field. Jamari Butler, listen to the stat line, 5 total tackles, 4 solos, 1 sack, 3 TFLs. Isaac Gifford, 4 totals, 1 solo, no TFLs. MJ Sherman had a great stat line too. 3 totals, 3 solos, 1 sack, 2 touchdowns. I mean, two touchdowns, 2 TFLs. So overall, pretty good. Bushini, 6 punts for 245. Did have 1 bad punt, had a 52-yard punt. John Hull, though, 54-yard long, 3 for 3. What a game by him. And hopefully that is one positive sign going forward that hopefully will ensure that Nebraska can almost maybe even roll out a little bit of a different offensive system, because at a certain point you have to think defenses are playing us to field goals, right? You have to think that they're playing us to field goals because that's what they want to do is to try to force us to try to take the three because we can't do it. So now at least this gives them something to think about. Like, okay, this team can kick a field goal. Now we're going to have to play. I guess that is a strategy teams can use. If you can't make a field goal, if you can't execute your field goal process, they'll just keep everything in front of you. Make sure they don't you don't beat them over the top. So, all right, let me slide back over here. I'm going to run through some of these Big Ten scores for y'all real quick. Just a heads up. Oregon's up 14-0 on Illinois. We got. See, Indiana ended up winning their game. I believe they had the backup quarterback, and as well, Curtis Rourke was out this week. So Illinois down 14-0 to Oregon. Oregon just scored. Yeah, Indiana 31-17 beat Washington. My poor Navy, they got beat, man. I'm a Navy veteran, so I got to root for the Navy in the second, but they got their doors blown off by Notre Dame. Can't give the D a total pass, though. The offense finally broke through and took the lead, and the defense immediately let OSU walk down pretty easy and take it back. Yeah, but part of me there is like, the defense was in certain situations, right? Because, yeah, they're definitely not getting a free pass. But I think the biggest thing that we have to do is think about it this way, because, yes, while they did give that up, I mean, they held the dam so long. They're bound to give it up eventually. I think the biggest thing is because if it wouldn't have mattered if the offense could have just done something and just not been anemic and took care of business on one of those drives, one more of those drives, and it doesn't matter. But yeah, like the Colorado game last year. You look at the Colorado game last year at altitude. They were just on the field. And while we did win the time of possession today, it's just one of those things where it's just like I still find it hard to fault the defense for that. But yeah, they did march down pretty quickly and score there. You are right. Need more resistance for sure. I think every 1st and 10 Nebraska ran the ball up the middle very predictably. That's the variation of run I'm talking about. Like what Ohio State does is they sit there and their run concepts are just they'll run out of the pistol, right? They'll run out of the shotgun pistol. They'll run out of 2-back sets. They'll run, like I said, trips. They'll run bunch. Everything that they're doing is trying to manipulate the numbers and get you out of the box. When Nebraska's running, it just seems like, okay, we feel like we need to run here, right? Like 1st and 10, let's try to establish the run. Let's just run it right here up the middle, right? There doesn't seem to be any variation. And there needs to be more motions. We need to utilize motions more because when we do, they work. You look at Purdue game on that first drive of the Purdue game, when Nebraska was just moving the ball down the field before we ended up throwing 3 deep passes consecutively. Everything was working off of motion. We were getting guys coming across the formation. We get another guy coming behind the formation. And then you had almost a triple option type of play there, right? And then that causes confusion with the eyes of the defense. We're not challenging the eyes of the defenses like they are to us. Right now, our eyes are being challenged. Theirs aren't. And that's what I'm not understanding, because right now we're sitting ducks, right? Maybe if our perimeter receivers are put in better situations and those screens are better set up, well, maybe they can get to their blocks a little better. Maybe then the defense isn't engaging downhill as quickly as they are right now. Let's try to find a way to set our personnel up for success as well. But yes, I think it's very predictable. It's like, do we feel like we should run here? Yes. Okay, let's just go run up the middle. Yeah. Wonder how many of your children fail because we judge so harshly those that are in growing periods of life. We are all on different levels, just figuring out what we don't want to be. That's right. That's right. I'm trying to making sure I didn't respond to anything more there. Appreciate you dropping in here, Rascal. Appreciate you. I'm sure I speak for everyone on here, and thank you for your service. Hey, Wade, much appreciated, man. Thank you so much. And I appreciate all y'all for stopping in here, tuning in with me as we run through this. And okay, let me go ahead and slide over a little bit here. 1 second. Sorry. All right. So let me pull this back up. My bad, y'all. Like, I hit live on this stream before I was even ready, but whatever. We're just going to roll with it. Okay. All right. So let's look at I want to look at the scoring summary real quick. And okay, so the first quarter, okay, the Carnell Tate 40-yard pass from Will Howard. That was after the 3rd and 9 pass interference call. Okay, the John Hall 39-yard field goal comes in. Jeremiah Smith 60-yard pass. That's the one I'm talking about. That was on the same exact route that I think that Indiana route was last week. And if I could pull that up, man, I don't have the film up readily available, but it's that same little route that they ran that week. Okay, moving down, John Hall with a 54-yarder before the half. Now, that was the situation right there where we had the missed spot. Now, that one right there to me is that was a bad one, just because the time that came off the clock, but having the ability to get in there, at least John Hill to make that 54-yard field goal to stop the bleeding was excellent. But that spot was horrible. I don't know how you missed that spot. And again, we got points out of it, but man, some of those were terrible. And then John Hull, 47-yard field goal. And it seems like he was just drilling them with confidence. Dante Dowdle comes in for that 1-yard run, and then Quinshon Judkins has that 9-yard pass from Will Howard, where they end up with a matchup of Mekhi Gabeir on Quinshon Judkins, which I didn't really necessarily like, but yeah, it's one of those things. They got the matchup they wanted, and that's what they're going to do well, right? That's what they're going to do well. But I think the biggest thing, Indiana last week, Nebraska didn't stop the run. Going into the Indiana game last week, I said Nebraska needed to stop the run, and immediately Indiana probably came out that first drive, had more rushing yards than Ohio State did all game today. Okay. Another thing that I do want to say too is our man coverage against this Ohio State team and how we held up against their athletes on this offensive side of the ball. That's only going to make this defense better in the coming weeks, because I still hold firm that offensively Ohio State is, if not the most talented, one of the most talented teams in the country. And so, but regardless, I think this is just a big confidence boost. But yeah, coming off of last week, they didn't stop the run against Indiana. They came out early today and they stopped the run, and look what happened. That's going to be the key to success. And Marcus Satterfield's just finding out you need to run the ball in the Big Ten to have success. Well, stop the run to have success as well. And that's what Nebraska was able to do today. So Buckeyes Battle Cry, I appreciate you hopping in here, man. Good stuff, Justin. Go Bucks, and God bless. I appreciate you, man. Buckeyes Battle Cry, great stuff over there. If y'all do ever want to check out any Ohio State stuff, go check them out. Great guys get over there. So good game, fellas. But let's go ahead and kind of look forward just a second to the remaining parts of our schedule. Okay, so coming up, November 2nd, UCLA. All right, so got UCLA at 12:30 on Big Ten Network. That game right there, of course, we can't come in overconfident for any game, but that UCLA game, if there's a game where Nebraska is going to get bowl eligible, and Nebraska needs to win the games that they should the rest of this season. That's the thing, and that's the one that they should win, right? So if we take the next step in year 3, the end of this season is that much more important, because UCLA, we have to beat teams like UCLA, right? No longer can we come out against Ohio State and have a close game and then just come out and also play a team that we shouldn't be playing close with, okay? Because that's what happens in previous years, right? Look at the 3-9 team. We beat Northwestern, right? We battled with all the ranked teams, but then we also lost to teams we shouldn't in close games, okay? So this is a team that just gets up and gets into close games, or is this going to be a team that comes in and takes care of business when they need to? So far they have. That needs to continue. Again, we've been talking about the start versus the last couple of weeks, or the Indiana game. Indiana game being a little bit outlier, but UCLA starts there. Have to win that game. USC, like I said, they have been really up and down. To me, USC is very much a product of kind of like us, if they beat themselves or not. That one game against Minnesota, 7 penalties. I believe they had 3 turnovers, and they lost that game barely, right? And so USC is a team that will make mistakes. USC is a team that will beat themselves, but USC is also a team that can put it up on the scoreboard and light up on the scoreboard. They can be physical, but very much like us, it depends on what team you get that week, you know? And Miller Moss is an excellent quarterback over there. He shows flashes of brilliance. So USC, that's going to be a very interesting game. To me, that is a true 50-50 game right there. That's a tough one to call. Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin, if we look at kind of how they came out earlier this year, they struggled against Bama, of course, 42-10. USC beat them 38-13. They come out and they beat Purdue 52-6, beat Rutgers 42-7. and Northwestern 23-3. So while Wisconsin looks tougher, their defense has been playing excellent. Their defense has been playing great. I just don't know how good they are, right? They're better, and they've committed to the run more, and that's what's made them better. And their defense is playing lights out. So that game becomes very important too, because I believe Nebraska should be favored in that game. They should be. They should be favored in that game. And then moving over to Iowa. So Iowa is one of those teams that's hard to know what to expect, right? They come out, they drop that game to Iowa State. They come out, beat Troy, Minnesota, 31-14. Ohio State, they were in that game 7-0 until half, and it was 35-7 at the end. Ohio State pulled away on them. Washington, 40-16. They came out, beat Washington, and then they lose to Michigan State 32-20. And Aiden Childs just kind of had his best day as a passer, or best day as a quarterback against, quote unquote, the toughest defense he's faced. Aiden Childs had I think it was 22 for 30 in that Michigan State Iowa game. So there's a distinct possibility that Nebraska is favored in 2 or 3 of these last 4 games. And if Nebraska takes care of business, they should finish with 8 wins. They should finish with bowl eligibility, and we're feeling good going into year 3. So what a stark contrast that was from a week ago but Satterfield still needs to get that together. Tough stretch ahead past UCLA and USC. Yep, for sure. But I'm good with that, right? I'd rather finish with some tough games, battle through adversity, as long as we finish with bowl eligibility. Purdue played for field goals, anything downfield. They just took the PI, so they didn't give up big play, clamped down, got inside the 20, shut the offense out in the first half doing it. Yeah, well, shut them out, but that pass interference where Fedoni tucked his shoulder and they somehow called it called it a pick play, even though it wasn't. But yeah, that's a very good point. Like, they're playing us to the field goals. And now this adds an element to that where they can't do that anymore. Teams can't do that. And if they are going to attempt to, John Holt, at least, you can't see a guy come out and make a 54-yarder and a 47-yarder and just be like, okay, well, it's one game. We don't have to worry about this guy anymore. It only takes a couple. You see a couple of those go through. John Holt sees that first one go through. He's like, okay. And then knock him down with confidence after that. Kicking is a mental game, I'm telling you. If they are thinking, if he's thinking about it, he's going to be tight. He's not going to stick to his fundamentals. And he's not like, there's a process to kicking, right? And everything has to be done the exact same way. It's muscle memory, right? You don't worry about anything around you. You look where you need to look. You do your steps. You step back. You just focus. Focus on what you need to do. Now, if you're thinking and you're worried about it, you're going to be tight. Your hips are going to be tight. Your legs are going to be tight. You're not just going to be flowing. You're not just going to be going through your motions. And anytime you're thinking in football, you're going to mess up. You're going to make a mistake. You have to just be sticking to what you know. And it seemed like today, John Holt got that confidence and was just going through what he knew. The snaps were good. The holds were good. So great work on that part of special teams in this off week. We do got to give credit there. Great week of work in terms of working that stuff for sure. What happens to the refs after coach turns in bad calls by the refs for review? When obviously bad calls are shown, do refs get paid, deducted? Don't get to probably not. Nothing's going to happen, I would imagine. Typically, they'll come out and say, "Oh, sorry, we did that," and then call it a day. But there's nothing that's going to be done to them really. That's worth anything. Looks like we're back to being happy lose. There's Dion. Hey, Dion, I was waiting for you to hop in here. Happy lose. Listen, I'm a happy loser today. Can't be the rest when we can't stop beating ourselves on offense. Yeah, and that's another thing. That's why I wasn't coming in here blaming the officials. I was saying there are some egregiously bad calls, but Nebraska had every opportunity to win that game and didn't. But I think we got to find some solace in the fact that we had every opportunity to win that game, even though opportunities are something we haven't taken advantage of before. I feel like this game, I come out of this game feeling different than most. And I think that's my biggest takeaway from this is I come out of this game feeling different because typically when Nebraska loses a game like this, we feel afterwards like we had it in our grasp and let it slip away. And this one, it feels like it was slipping, right? Almost like we felt it slipping from the jump, and it was slipping and then it never slipped away. And we just kind of grabbed on and gave ourselves a chance, right? That's what's making me feel a little bit better about the way this game went. It's just that thought process of I'm not coming away from this feeling like, oh crap, we watched that again. Now with screen passes and certain aspects of the team, I am, but with the entirety of the team, it feels different. It feels different. So there's some Dion. That's why I'm a happy loser. Appreciate it, Dion. Appreciate you hopping in here. Again, if y'all want to drop your comments in here, get into a little bit of these as we go. Catherine, appreciate you hopping in here. I was proud of our guys. It could have been worse. It definitely could have been worse. It definitely could have been worse. But yeah, you can't do anything but be proud of this team for the fight that they had today. And when I do get a chance to go, watch the film, I'll be able to break this stuff down in detail. I'll give y'all some film reviews this week in terms of not only what we can expect looking forward from UCLA, but some of the stuff that we can look back on this week and really look at and just say, hey, we're going to be all right. And I'll point to some of that stuff because there was a lot of good things that I already saw that are going to show up on this tape that are good that we haven't seen in previous weeks. And I'll be able to spotlight those as well. And also just dive into, some of the players that are stepping up. There are some players, Buddha Wright came up with a big play there. There's some players stepping up in here. Willis McGahee, the fourth, that are going to need to be talked about and that I also want to spotlight in the film for making some excellent plays. But everybody, I appreciate all of y'all hopping in here with me for this quick post game. And if y'all don't have any more comments popping in here, then I'm going to probably conclude this one. Sorry, I just have to take my dog down the road to get her nails trimmed here in a little bit. So that's why I had to start this one a little earlier than usual. But everybody who hopped in here, if you don't mind dropping a like, again, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Let me know what y'all thought on the game. If you want to go back and comment after this and or on the next video, I'll probably have that coming for y'all either tomorrow, have a reaction, or Monday. I'll be having something come for y'all. Probably get the film by Tuesday, have something for y'all in terms of that by Wednesday or Thursday. So stay tuned next week. It's going to be a packed week of stuff coming from me. And thank y'all again for tuning in. Go Big Red. I love the fight for this team. We're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. Bowl eligibility is right around the corner. We're going to get it. If we don't come back and clip this, please, because I don't want to be responsible. Maybe it took the fans fury last week to play better. Might have, Dion. Maybe you motivated them. I'm sure they read your comments, Dion. I'm sure they do. But no, I appreciate you, Dion. Appreciate everybody again for hopping in here. And with that being said, I will see you in the next video. Peace. Thanks, Dion. Later, y'all.